So good afternoon, and welcome to the Home of Harmony. And to this is the second talk, actually it'd be the third talk that we've had here. As you know, we inaugurated the Home of Harmony on May 21st. And so now we're kind of just in operation and starting our programs. And this will be a regular program each Saturday. It's part of a process called Know and Love. It's a series of interfaith talks. So each week we'll have representatives of different religions can come here and present their religion and so forth. And the Home of Harmony is a continuation of the interfaith movement that was started at the Parliament of Religions in 1893. And it is dedicated to the idea of creating harmony among the different religions. Throughout history, all religions, they teach peace and brotherhood, but yet religions have been a great source of bloodshed and torture throughout human history. So somehow, all the religions, we just need to learn how to get along. And so this is what the Home of Harmony is dedicated to, is trying to establish understanding and friendship among all the different religions. And we're very happy to have with us today a very important member of the interfaith movement, Rohinton Rivetna. He's a Zoroastrian, and he was a founding member of the Council for Parliament of the World's Religions, which was started to kind of continue the original Parliament of 1893. And he is also a prime force within the Zoroastrian community, and was very much behind the development of the Zoroastrian temple, which is located not very far from our center in Homer Glen. So I've known Rohinton for years and years, and very happy to welcome him here. And I ask you to listen to him be speaking on Zoroastrianism, its role and relevance to the modern society. And he'll have a talk. He also has some slides for you. And at the end, there'll be time for question and answer. So I thank you all for coming. And I invite now, Ro, you can come here and speak.
Thank you, Swamiji, Swamiji Varadananda, and salutations to Swamiji Ishatmananda, who couldn't be with us today, and friends. I'm very happy to be here today. This Home of Harmony, a tribute to Swami Vivekananda, and of course, Ramakrishna. This is a great start, and it promises to be an important center here in Chicago. The mission of Home of Harmony is to promote interfaith dialogue and intra-faith dialogue, both. So, interfaith dialogue is to promote, to find peace between the faiths, whereas intra-faith dialogue, intra-faith, is to promote peace within each faith. Both are important. Interfaith dialogue does not reach too many people. We kind of meet and greet the same people over and over again. But intra-faith dialogue promises to reach billions of people if we do it right. So it has a great importance, and I'm glad that Home of Harmony promotes intra-faith dialogue. And I would say that the interfaith organizations need to be incubators for intra-faith dialogue. Interfaith dialogue is very easy. Intra-faith dialogue is very difficult. To dialogue within ourselves, to find our own faults and to rectify our own faults, it's very difficult. So interfaith dialogue should act as incubators, promote intra-faith dialogue. That's the function, I would say, of interfaith organizations. And I would suggest one other mission for Home of Harmony, which is to establish a religious arm of the UN. This is something that we have been promoting for ever since 1993 Parliament, to establish an arm, religious arm at the UN. It's very important that we do that. And it can be done. There are mechanisms that we can establish and follow that would help us do that, but it's not gathering steam. So if Home of Harmony can promote that, that'll be really, really good. I have a special relationship with Vedanta Society, having known Swami Varadananda for all these years, and Swami Sarveshananda, late Swami Sarveshananda, who was the person who really put the parliament together. He would, after the charter was written, which Swami Varadananda put together, really, the first charter, and that was modeled after our Zoroastrian Association charter. And once that was done, then Swami Sarveshananda made the calls. He would call, make round of calls every day for 2, 3, 4 months. And in the evenings, we would have a conversation and kind of plan the next day. And that's how it said that Swami Sarveshananda pulled the parliament through the telephones. So he would work the telephones daily, and this is where we are. The parliament was formed, and it's a pretty successful organization. And the mission of the parliament is to promote interfaith dialogue, to promote peace within the faiths. And I would suggest that the parliament needs to remain focused on that topic, to promote peace within the faiths. Hans Kuhn, well-known theologian that passed away last February, said that there will be no peace in this world unless there is peace between the faiths. So that is very important, that we should find peace and generate peace between the faiths to promote peace in our world. So today's topic is Zoroastrianism, its role and relevance. And I would suggest that you keep that role in mind as I go through my presentation, and see what you think is our role as Zoroastrians and its relevance. And at the end, I will kind of give you my thoughts on its role and relevance and see if they match. So keep that in mind, please. Zoroastrianism is also sometimes called the religion of the good life. We are enjoined to live a good life, to promote harmony, and make this world a better place. We are enjoined to eradicate evil, promote good, and make this world a better place that we have a name for that, and we call that froshokarati. It is also a religion of responsibility. We are responsible to promote peace and promote harmony and promote creation and make creation grow and care for the creation. That is our responsibility. And we are not a religion of prescription. We don't have any prescribed rules or commandments. And I'll tell you why in a minute. So I'll go through the slides. The first slide here is a likeness of Zarathustra, the prophet, who preached the faith we think almost 4,000 years ago in the Bronze Age. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the same. It's a likeness of Zarathustra. Zarathustra preached the faith somewhere between the Caspian Sea and the Aral Sea, which you would recognize is Persia or Iran today. And Zarathustra declared that there was one God, and he called that God Ahura Mazda. Ahura is Lord, and Mazda is wise. So Ahura Mazda, he called God Ahura Mazda. And then he proceeded to lay down the attributes of Ahura Mazda and enjoined humankind to emulate those attributes of Ahura Mazda. And chief among those attributes was Wahuman. Wahuman is a good mind. So we are enjoined to develop a good mind. And one can develop a good mind or a bad mind. We are enjoined to develop a good mind. And from the good mind proceeds good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. We call those Humata, Hukta, and Huvarashta. And sometimes they are written on our altars. Humata, Hukta, Huvarashta. So those are the three precepts. If you ask a youth, what is your religion? He'll say good thoughts, good words, good deeds. So that's the main attribute of Ahura Mazda. The second attribute is Asha. Asha is righteousness, and it translates for us as the natural law of order and harmony. We are prescribed to follow the natural law, and that's you will notice that that's in the declaration also of our United States. So natural law of order and harmony is what we are enjoined to follow. The third attribute is Shatra, which is divine majesty of Ahura Mazda, and that reflects in us being of service to others. Service is very important in Zoroastrianism. The fourth attribute of Ahura Mazda is Almighty. Almighty is devotion, and we are enjoined to be devoted to our family, our community, our country, and the world, of course. With the practice of those four attributes, one can attain Amaritat and Auravatat. Amaritat is perfection, and Auratat is immortality. So one can attain Amaritat and Auravatat with the practice of those attributes. So these are the attributes of Ahura Mazda that we are enjoined to follow. Next slide, please. This is our small Avesta book that has our daily prayers. We have, of course, lots of scriptures. The main scripture is called Yasna, which has 72 chapters, but this is a small compilation of some of the prayers from that Yasna. We have three cardinal prayers that is on our lips constantly. The first one is Hashem Bahu. Hashem Bahu is to, and I will recite the prayer. Hashem Bahu Vahestam Asti Usta Asti Usta Hammai Yad Ashai Vahista Hashem. And some of you who know Sanskrit would recognize some of the words. The Avesta language in which the prayers are written is very close to the Sanskrit, Vedic Sanskrit. So that Hashem Bahu prayer enjoins us to do good constantly, not for any reward, but just to do good, because the world cannot function if people did not do good, the right thing. So that's our first prayer. The second prayer is Yatahu Veryo, which is enjoins us to be of service to humanity. Service is important, and we recite the prayer constantly, Yatahu Veryo. And the third prayer is Yahangya Atam, and that tells us to be respectful of our illustrious forefathers and keep them in our memory and follow their example. So these are the three cardinal prayers, and none of those prayers talk anything about Ahura Mazda. This is for us to live and live a good life constantly, and that the three prayers reminds us to be of service, to do good, and to be respectful of our forefathers. So those are the three prayers. Next slide, please. This is our priest in his vestments, and it happens to be one of our head priests in India, a village called Udvada, where we have our main fire temple. And that's the vestment that he wears. Our priesthood is hereditary, father to son, and that is what has kept our faith alive, because the father teaches the son, and it's committed, all the scriptures are committed to memory, and that's how it's preserved. So the books are destroyed, but the memory is kept intact. And that's how the religion is perpetuated. Next slide, please. So this is a fire temple in Persia, Iran, one of the higher grade fire temples. We have 3 grades of temples. This is one of the higher grade. The middle one is a gyari, and the fire that we have in our homes is called the dadga. So this is the highest grade of fire temple. This is a temple, we call it the Atash Kadeh, built in Houston by Cyrus, who's sitting here. Cyrus is the architect of that temple in Houston. It's a very well designed, and of course we are very proud of our son. Next. This is a ceremony. This is how our ceremonies are performed. We have many, many ceremonies during the year. During each month, at least there's one with the day and the month of have the same names, coincide. We have a Jashan ceremony. And then we have the Gambar ceremony. The 6 Gambars, we celebrate the seasonal festivals. Those are the 6 Gambars that we celebrate. And then the New Year and the birth anniversary of Zarathustra, the death anniversary of Zarathustra, and many such ceremonies. We don't congregate to worship, but we have these observances that we observe regularly. And go back, yes. So notice how the ceremony is performed. You see, right in the middle is a fire vase, and that represents Ahura Mazda. It's a symbol of Ahura Mazda, divinity here on earth. So fire represents the constantly burning fire represents the divinity here on earth. It's a symbol. We do not worship fire, it's our symbol that is constantly in front of us. So with that symbol in the center stage, all around the creator, Ahura Mazda, are the creation elements, the representations of creation. The fruit, there's a little cup of milk, there are fruits, flowers, the animal kingdom, the vegetable kingdom, the earth, of course, human beings, water and air. They're all represented so that we are reminded of being stewards of creation. So this is constantly there in front of us to be stewards of creation. Next slide, please. As I said, fire is a symbol of divinity here on earth. And in our temples, we have a continuously burning fire, which represents the divinity for our community, that the community members would go and worship in that temple, fire temple. Some fires have been burning for more than 2,000 years, continuously burning. Wood fire, the burning continuously, which is a very, very nice symbol for us. And that's our symbol. We do not worship fire. One more time. Next slide, please. And the fire is tended with frankincense and myrrh, which is what the three wise men took to infant Christ as gifts. So that's a connection. This is Fravashi. This is taken a picture of a pillar at Persepolis, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But Fravashi represents, it's another symbol for us, an important symbol, and I wear a pin with that Fravashi. A lot of us wear a Fravashi around our neck as symbol, and that represents the divinity within each one of us. And that's our connection with all of us. We all have a divinity within us, and that is what connects us all together. Divinity in humanity. And it has various significance, the three feathers, good thoughts, good words, good deeds, and then the tail is different symbols, bad thoughts, bad words, bad deeds, and so on and so forth, but lots of symbols, symbolic. Next one. I have to rush through some of the slides because of the time constraints, of course. Ceremonies. We have, at birth, there is a simple ceremony. We light a little light, a lamp, signifying the arrival of a new soul. Then as the child grows up between the ages of 7 and 14, the child is initiated into the faith, and the child is invested with a garment, undergarment that we wear constantly next to our skin, which we call the sudre. And there are significance to the sudre. And then we tie a kushti around our waist 3 times, 3 loops. And when we tie the knot in the front, we recite the prayer Yatha Uveryo, which is reminding us to be of service. And when we tie the knot in the back, we recite the prayer Ashembahu, which reminds us to do good constantly. So those are the other 2 symbols that we have, the Sudra and the Kusti. The child is invested into the faith, and the child at that time takes the oath to be a good Zartusti, to develop a good mind from which flows good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. And there are 4 letters that the child recites. Nidashnayatisham kadvatatamashonem yayantinamcha bushayantinamcha, which says that the child would create harmony. Actually, it means sheathe the sword, meaning create harmony and be a bridge builder between communities, between faiths, and so on and so forth. So the child takes the oath to bring peace in this world and bring harmony to this world. So that's the Navjot ceremony. And then there's the wedding ceremony, where it has 3 parts to the wedding ceremony. The first is the affirmation, where they accept each other. The second is very important part of the ceremony is admonitions. The priest gives advice to the couple to how to relate with each other and how to win each other with righteousness. So there are about 40 different advice that the priest gives the couple. And then, of course, the last part is the blessing. The priest blesses the couple. So that's the wedding ceremony. And then the death ceremony. Next slide. Well, this is our famous Lagan Nubonu, we call it, which is the food served on banana leaves. And that's a feast after the ceremony. Nojota wedding or whatever ceremony there is. So that's a feast. The next slide, please. The other life cycle ceremony is the death ceremony, where we believe in natural disposal. The body is disposed of naturally. So the body is taken to this, what is called the Tower of Silence, where the body is left and it's allowed to decompose naturally. And sometimes if there are birds of prey, they devour the body. So natural disposal is the sun's rays and so on. So body is disposed of naturally. So that's called the Tower of Silence. We call it the Dakma. And then on the last few days of the year, calendar year, we remember the fravashis of our relatives that have departed. And we place a flower vase for each one of our departed souls, fravashis or souls. And we kind of remember them for the last five. And there are particular prayers that we recite. The gathas of Zarathustra. Zarathustra has left behind for us the 5 gathas that are recited. That's the essence of the religion. Those are recited on those last 5 days of the year. Next slide, please. And as I said, there are many, many festivals, many observances. They're called jashans. And this is a New Year's table that is called Hafsin table. 7 items are placed. Each one has significance. You heard the 7 Hameshaspantas, the attributes of Ahura Mazda. They represent the attributes of Ahura Mazda, but lately it's transformed and they represent different things. This is something that all over Iran they celebrate, be it Muslims or Zoroastrians. They have this Hafsin table on New Year's Day, which is the spring equinox. We celebrate the seasons. The spring equinox is New Year's Day. Then we have the Tirgan, the Mehrgan, the solstice, the autumnal equinox, the winter solstice, and then again the New Year. So all those are celebrated, and they are named. We have a name for each one of them: Tirgan, Mehrgan, Yalda, and New Year. Next slide, please. A little bit of history. Somebody asked earlier who was Cyrus the Great. This is the old part of the old Persian Empire, not all of it, but the Persian Empire extended from Turkey, today's Turkey, all the way to China. And the founder of the Akhmanian Dynasty, we have 4 or 5 dynasties. The Akhmanian Dynasty was Cyrus the Great. Cyrus the Great is known to have released the Jews from Babylon captivity, the Assyrian captivity in Babylon, and allowed them to rebuild their temples. So Jews have a high regard for Cyrus the Great. And he also promoted multiculturalism, where there were lots of subjects and lots of different religions people practiced and lots of different customs and traditions. This is the first, this is a tablet, this is a little cylinder, which is the first Bill of Rights. Not Magna Carta, but this one is the first Bill of Rights in 550 BC, where he gave freedom to all his subjects. This was discovered in the 1800s in what is today Iraq. But all that was Zoroastrian, and there were millions and millions of Zoroastrians at that time. So from Cyrus the Great founded the Akhmanian Dynasty. There was Xerxes and Darius and all those kings. There was conflict between Persia and Greeks. So in about 330 BC, Alexander invaded Persia and destroyed the seat of Zoroastrianism, the seat of the empire, which was today known as Persepolis. And these are some of the ruins of Persepolis. It was a magnificent complex where the subjects came every New Year's Day and greeted the emperor with gifts. There was no taxation. They greeted the emperor with gifts at that time. So that's Persepolis, which is still standing in ruins, of course, but it was a magnificent structure at that time. So after the Akhmanian Dynasty came the Seleucids, the Greeks ruled for about 40 years, Persia, and then the Parthians took over, who were Zoroastrians, took over again and revived Zoroastrianism. After the Parthians, for about 200-300 years, came the Sasanians. The Sasanians, with the Sasanians, Zoroastrianism became the state religion. And in about 650 AD, the Arabs came from the south, invaded the country, and the Zoroastrians were in disarray. They fled everywhere. Some went to China, Europe, and some of us came to India. The story goes that we came on a boatload, 3 or 4 boatloads, and landed on the shores of Gujarat, where the king gave us refuge, but he said first there was no room. So our priest asked for a glass of jug of milk, full. It was full up to the top, signifying there is no room. So he put a pinch of sugar in the milk, and that is the story, that we have been like the sugar in the milk and sweetened the pot in India. And we have done well with Hindu tolerance. In India, we have survived. And the last slide here is the 3 wise men, the 3 magi's who came to greet Christ with the gifts, frankincense, myrrh, and gold. And these are in Persian garbs. This is the mosaic in Italy, in Ravenna. Next slide. You could read this. So it was out of Judaism, enriched by 5 centuries of contact with Zoroastrianism, that Christianity arose in the Parthian period, a new religion with roots, the 2 ancient faiths, one Semitic, the other Persian. Doctrines taught perhaps a millennium and a half earlier by Zoroaster began in this way to reach fresh hearers. So Christianity, Judaism, they all have roots in Zoroastrianism. And next slide. So we are small in number, maybe 125,000 in the world. today spread all over the world from India and Iran. Lately, we have spread to all parts of the world, and we are kind of trying to get our world community together in a single organization. So that's essentially our story. So I would end with the last slide, please. Yeah. So this is what Home of Harmony is all about. Several paths, one mountain, all kinds of different faiths to bring them together, which is what Home of Harmony is about. And I see that everywhere. Here, all over, it's written. I would like to read to you what Swami Vivekananda said about this particular aspect. In 1883, when he was here, just a few blocks from here, what he said was, as the different streams having their sources in different places all mingle their water in the sea, O Lord, so the different paths which men take through different tendencies, various though they appear, crooked or straight, all lead to thee. That's what he said in 1893, and that's what you are promoting today. So, what is our role as Zoroastrians? What is our role? Which is the topic, Zoroastrianism, its role and relevance. And perhaps you have some idea. I would submit to you that we have many things in common with many faiths. So with the Hindus, we have great commonality. The language, Avesta language, is very, very close to the Vedic Sanskrit. And lots of aspects are similar to Hinduism. So Hinduism and Zoroastrianism have great similarities. Language is the main thing. With Buddhism, they have the 8 pillars. You would, if you notice, 4 or 5 of them are identical Zoroastrian concepts. And Buddhists and Zoroastrians lived together for several years in Afghanistan, which was all Persian. You have the Buddhist monuments, the Buddha that was destroyed lately, but I think it is reconstructed. With Christians, you saw the 3 wise men, and there are many aspects of Zoroastrianism similar to Christianity, resurrection, and so on. So many different aspects. Jews and Zoroastrians lived together for several centuries after Cyrus released the Jews from Assyrian captivity in Babylon. So there are many things in common with the Jews. And Muslims, we have several things in common. There was Salman Farsi, who was a Zoroastrian, was one of the associates of Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him. So we have commonalities with a lot of faiths. We are not a wounded community. We don't teach woundedness to our children, so we don't really remember past hostilities, and everybody has suffered. All faiths have suffered in one form or the other in the past. We don't remember those. We kind of put those aside. We are inclusivists. There is inclusivist faith and exclusivist faith. Inclusivist faith, we do not profess to have the only one truth. Everybody has truth. So exclusive religions would have one truth, and their truth is the only truth. We believe that everybody has the truth. We are not the sole possessors of the truth. We do not proselytize. And that is why our community is small. We like everybody to remain who they are, and there should not really, all paths are the same, so there is no need for one to go from one to the next. So we don't know how to proselytize. We respect all faiths, and all faiths respect us in turn. We hold a worldview, a perfecting world, where we are enjoined to make this world a better place. As I said earlier, that's our mission. And therefore, Zoroastrians can be very good bridge builders. And that, I think, should be our role as bridge builders between the faiths, and to bring peace and harmony amongst the faiths. Relevance in the present day, it is not a prescriptive faith. We don't have any commandments. We have to use our good mind to come up with the right answers. And therefore, it's progressive in that sense. We progress with the world as progresses, we progress. So that's relevant in today's age. And you've seen that we have intense reverence for creation, the environment. And these days, you will hear talk about sustainability and the environment and so on and so forth. And that's really something that we promote, and that's our mission in life, to promote, to be stewards of the environment. So these are, in my view, the role and relevance of Zoroastrianism. And I would submit that you find it so, and we can talk about that if you have any questions, or if there are any questions in the chat. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. I have a couple of questions. One is, has cremation taken the place of natural deterioration of corpses in countries like the US, where there's very strict laws about the disposals of bodies?
Yeah, mostly we cremate in US. Some use burial,
Okay.
but it's cremation mostly. And India also, little by little, they're moving towards cremation.
Okay.
Yeah.
My other question is, how tolerant is the current Iranian government toward Zoroastrians and the practice of your religion?
Yes, we have a representative in the Majlis, the Zoroastrians, and of course the Jews have one and the Christians have one. So there is some recognition of Zoroastrianism, and we are free to practice our faith. So we are moving along, of course. Yeah. Thank you for the questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a question here.
Thank you for your talk. In whatever little I know about Zoroastrianism, there's always discussion of the sort of counterbalancing principle of Ahriman, I think is
Yes.
how, at least in how it's presented, sort of in a basic sense. Is that, how would you, is that an accurate presentation, that there's like this negative principle that must be overcome? Okay.
Yes, it's is the good mind or the bad mind in my book. And we are enjoined to eradicate evil. Ahriman represents evil, and that's really in our minds. And we have to develop a good mind and defeat Ahriman, that is evil. So there's a conflict. This world is a conflict between good and bad. And we have to promote good and fight or vanquish evil. So that's one important aspect of Zoroastrianism. Yes. Yeah.
So is that primarily then an internal struggle?
Yes, yeah, of course it is. Yes, absolutely. Until we achieve frashokarity, which is we make this world a blissful place where good prevails. And that's our mission in life, to promote frashokarity, to promote good and make this world a blissful place where, of course, who knows if we are ever going to achieve that, but that's exactly what we have to do to it guides us, it helps us to work towards good, and that's our motive force to do good in this world. Yeah.
Thank you. In military and war, are you conscientious objectors, pacifists, or do you participate in what you perceive as a just war?
Yes, we are not objectors like that. The only field marshal in India has been a Zoroastrian. So, yeah, lots of us are in the army and navy and so on. We are not objectors, conscientious objectors. No.
Thank you.
Wherever we live, we respect the laws and be faithful to the country. We live in many countries and we respect the laws of the country where we live.
So yes.
Anything on chat or anything? Yes. Yes.
So I had a question about the concept of the soul, sort of the equivalent of the Atman in Hinduism. And how does Zoroastrianism address that aspect of?
Yes, we call it Urvan, is the soul, and Fravashi is a separate part. Fravashi is the guiding spirit. The soul is the soul. The soul is guided by Fravashi, the divinity within us. Those soul, the Urvan and Fravashi, do not die with the body. The soul is judged at the end of life, and the judgment is received on the fourth day of death. So there are ceremonies that are performed for the first day is the funeral day, second day is the memorial day, we call it Utamna, and the fourth day, fourth night is the Charam, we call it, the fourth. And the soul is judged. If you've done, it's a balance. Everything is a balance. So in the balance, if you've done more good than evil, then you'll receive the Garothman, which is you reside in the abode of Ahura Mazda. And if you've done more evil than good, then you have the consequence of Hamespelgan. So those are the different consequences that one attains, doing good or doing bad.
And is the soul lives on? Is it an immortal?
Well, soul is
immortality of the
judged,
soul?
yes. And
Yeah.
at the end of time, there's a resurrection where everybody unites. So it's not eternal. It's not eternal punishment. At the end of time, there's a resurrection where everybody unites. Yeah.
You mentioned there are no commandments in Zoroastrianism. So the book you mentioned, Avastha, what is it about?
Yes, Avastha prayers, a lot of it is reverence for creation, and also, of course, Ahura Mazda. We remember and revere Ahura Mazda. So those are the prayers. The Gathas are the main source of our scriptures, and those were given to us by Prophet Zarathustra. And they have remained intact even after 4,000 years because they have been committed to memory by our priests. So the Gathas are the main source of our scriptures. And there is no violence in the Gathas. There is not one word of violence. It's just how to live a good life. The Hameshaspantas, the attributes of Ahura Mazda, and so on. So I think I've left a copy of the Gathas book, and it may be downstairs in your library, and you may want to look at it. There's a translation, free translation and word-by-word translation of the Gathas. And you'll find, if you read the Gathas, very close to the Vedic Sanskrit. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. My associate for a long, long time. We worked together at the Council of Religious Leaders also.
So we are very happy. Thank you very much for your talk and for your very interesting talk. We learned a lot today. And we're getting a sense of what Zoroastrianism is. The most fundamental element in interfaith movement, I think, is just to get to know each other. When you realize that in every religion, people are just people. They're good people, bad people, but they're basically just people like you and me, then you've got a basis for harmony. And so this is what the purpose of this program is to try to introduce us to the different religions, what they believe, and so forth, and get to know that, well, they're people like us. And so I'm very happy that Ro could join us today. Like he's mentioned, we've had a long, long time association between us. He was one of the original members of the Parliament of Religions and has been very active in interfaith and also very active within the Zoroastrian community for many years. And so we're very grateful and thankful that you could be with us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Please come downstairs. There are some refreshments. You can meet the speaker and the Swami.